if you've been part of the Shonen Jump community for the past 4 to 5 years, or you're a fan of X titles, you probably have heard of Phantom Seer, the 2020 Exorcist manga by Togo Goto and Kento Matsuda. It was quite popular in the Western community, and despite selling a decent number of copies, reaching a confirmed 86,000 copies sold, but having at the bare minimum 250,000 copies in circulation, it got cancelled in less than a year, ending in its 4th volume. And it got people mad. You gotta understand that this was before Exorcist manga really started to wear down people, and there were a lot of readers that really enjoyed this manga. Personally, I really love the art because I thought the monsters looked genuinely scary, but I wasn't sad or angry necessarily that the manga got cancelled. As a matter of fact, after being happy that Minro Boko survived, which was a manga that was released the batch before, a lot of people started thinking that I outright didn't like Phantom Seer. Now, that's not true. I like a good horror battle shonen, but I was never as invested in Phantom Seer as I was for other titles. So while I'm not as excited for the return of the duo as some other people may be, I was definitely curious when I found out that they will be kickstarting this brand new batch with a sports title. Harukaze Mound is their grand return and the first out of 3 sports manga in this 4 manga batch, and this one is all about the most popular sport in all Japan, baseball. We follow the 2 twin brothers Nagiharo and Aokaze Kozumi as they try to fulfill the promise that they made to each other to go to the Koshien together. If you've ever read any other baseball manga, you probably already know what the Koshien is, as it's the goal of every single main character in those manga, but if you don't, the Koshien is the yearly national high school baseball tournament in Japan, or to be more specific, it's actually the name of the stadium where the tournament is held, but normally it's used to refer to the tournament as well. The stadium itself can actually be seen in the cover pages of the manga. The 2 twins, despite looking nothing alike because we have to be able to distinguish them, are actually pretty similar. They like the same foods, the same music, they have the same dream, and they idolize the same baseball player. Because of this last aspect, they also play very similar to each other. Both are pitchers and both have the same pitch, just mirrored. The sole difference is that Aokaze is right-handed and Nagiharo, our main character, is left-handed. Well, I say the only difference, but that's not true. That's not the only difference. The main difference between both of them is that Aokaze is actually pretty good and Nagiharo sucks balls. Because of this, Nagiharo works and trains hard every single day to catch up to his apparently more talented brother. He tries to copy his pitch and tries to perfect it so that they can both enter the same prestigious high school when they finally graduate in just a couple of months. Enter the 3rd and final main character of this chapter, the Short King transfer student Ibuki Hayama. Is this legendary catcher that joined the school specifically to scout Aokaze and make him join him in his team during high school, as he believes that Aokaze, despite being really good already, is actually holding back, and he is able to prove this to be true when he teases him so much and makes Aokaze throw this brutal pitch at him. This is something that of course demoralizes Nagiharo even more, to know that despite being so behind his younger brother already, the distance is even bigger than he thought. However, he doesn't give up. Instead, he goes to Ibuki and asks him for his help, which Ibuki does agree upon, but with one condition, to accept that he'll never be like his brother. Ibuki reveals that being left-handed is actually a much bigger deal than Nagiharo realizes. Because people's bodies aren't fully symmetrical, especially on the inside, to simply grab a pitch that works for right-handed people and mirror it just doesn't work. What Nagiharo needs to do isn't to try to replicate and catch up to the perfect pitch of his brother, but instead to start doing one that specifically works just for him. And once he starts doing that, his pitch improves drastically and he realizes what Ibuki was trying to teach him all along, that Nagiharo doesn't need to try to be like Aokaze, he needs to try to be like Nagiharo. I actually love this part, not only the pretty well executed realization of Nagiharo as he spends the entire chapter up to this point essentially trying to copy Harukaze's pitch and trying to be as good as him, but also the explanation of it. I think it'd be easier to just make an underdog story about a younger brother that is real talented and the older brother that isn't. I think that's something we've all seen in sports manga before, but to have it not be the talent that is the key difference, but instead a bad understanding of one's own body and anatomy, one that explains why he's able to train so hard, but having the gains not really match the effort put. I think that's pretty cool, because, you know, sometimes we just put all the effort in the wrong thing, and I think we can all relate to that, and that's why I really like that. The chapter ends then with Ibuki changing his mind about which brother he wants to invite to high school, and that's asking Nagiharu. But the thing is, the school Ibuki is going isn't like the ones that the brothers were aiming for, which are these prestigious high schools with great teams. Rather, this is a school without a solid team. But I also really like the argument as to why. According to Ibuki, most schools with pretty established teams, they're more likely to want to work with students that have normal strong points. Not only will they know how to work with people that have strong points that are similar to previous players, but they will probably also mesh well with an already established team. Ibuki argues then that this is not really a good place for players like them, good players that are nonetheless outliers, like how Ibuki is too short and Nagiharu is left-handed. The best place for them is in a brand new team that is able to build upon and adapt to their differences. The setting got me excited for two different reasons. One, I'm actually very curious as to what will happen to the brothers. One of the key points of this chapter was how they promised to do Koshien together, and they seem pretty keen on that. So having in mind that Ibuki asked one brother and then the other to join the school, there's the chance that they might end up going together, but I don't think that's actually what will happen. I think Harukaze is going to go to the prestigious school that they were originally planning to, and Nagiharu ends up following Ibuki. So I'm interested in seeing if that does happen and how it develops if that's the case. The second thing I'm excited about is seeing the rest of the Outcast team. I think one of the main things in sports manga is the team itself. To just have one or even two interesting characters, it's not good enough. I like a manga where every member brings something unique to the table and is a good character. The last baseball manga in Shonen Jump, Nine Dragons Ball Parade, went as far as trying to have this core arc for each individual player before the team was even properly formed, which is an idea that I really loved in concept, but one that's pretty hard to execute. Harukaze Mound, on the other hand, seems to have already at the bare minimum half of the team built and ready to be introduced in the next couple of chapters, which is good. Hopefully the entire concept of them being a team of outsiders is enough to give them unique characteristics from the get-go to make them interesting, and then explore and evolve them as characters afterwards. As for the ones that were established in this first chapter, I think Ibuki is a clear MVP. I really liked how smart he was, like the fact that he just had a plan for pretty much anything, without necessarily being the cliche nerdy smart guy of manga. The two twins, on the other hand, just kind of like what you'd expect from a main character of sports manga, but I did really like the relationship between them. The fact that while there were some disappointments and some distance inabilities between them, there was always a clear support and love between both characters. That was something that I thought was really touching, and that could serve as the core central point of this manga, even if the twins end up going different paths. I just don't think there was anything that I actively disliked about this chapter. I think it did a good job at establishing the things that it needed to establish. The art is great. I mean, this is my third Kintu Matsuru manga, and while I think the art is slightly better than it was back in Tokushinobi Squad, probably because you know it's been 6 years, his art was still pretty great even back then. I'd argue this is already probably one of the best looking manga in the magazine right now, even though we do have a lot of really good artists in the roster. Normally at the end of these videos, I tend to do my educated guess on their chances of survival, but I'm going to do something slightly different this time, and the reason for that is because again, this is only the first out of 3 sports manga that are coming in the next couple of weeks. And Shonen Jump isn't doing that because it wants 3 different sports manga in the magazine right now. It's doing that because the magazine has not had an established sports manga since IQ ended like 5 years ago, and it really needs one. But it probably only needs one, so don't get too excited. Shonen Jump is just doing what it always does. It's throwing all of these series to the wall and then killing anything that doesn't stick. So, do I think this manga will survive? I'll let you know once all the other sports manga have debuted. Still, with the information that we have right now, I'd say that Harukaze Mound does have the advantage. Not only is it by duo that, despite being axed before, already has this core fan base and people that want to see it succeed, but it also covers essentially the most beloved and popular sport in all of Japan, while the other two are by complete rookies and cover niche sports. That's not a guarantee of success. Last baseball manga failed pretty hard, and the most popular manga in Weekly Shonen Jump, Slam Dunk, was actually covering a sport that was, at the time in Japan, pretty niche. So, still, the advantage does exist, so we'll see if that is enough to make it survive. In the meantime, there are 3 more manga to come this batch, and if you want to know my opinion on them, then just stick around. There should be a playlist on the left with my first thoughts on all the Shonen Jump series I've covered, and if you watched till here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.